Good
All right,
morning,
everybody.
afternoon. Oh no, it's my turn, Eloise.
Gotcha.
No, I got it. Let me do it. Welcome to the Painter's Blueprint, Unlocking Strong Composition and Value. We are going to instantly jump over to our Padlet page, check out what Eloise has shared with us. Spotlighted for everybody. And we are going to share our Padlet page. Everybody sees our Padlet page?
Not yet.
There we go.
Okay, it's a bit of a delay. It's got to go to space and then come back to you, evidently. All right, so we've got the videos here. Don't care. We've all seen those. All right, so this is what Eloise was starting to talk about. You could introduce it so much better. I saw you. Starting to talk about an artist named Tim Wilson, who I actually am not aware of. So this is really neat. So you have a whole bunch of them here. And then when I touched it, it opened up to their website. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about Tim Wilson, because this looks really interesting.
Yeah, so I don't even know how I found his work, but I think it was through maybe exploring these more monochromatic and darker valued still lifes. So obviously it's like the color palette is very nocturne adjacent.
And are you guys seeing when are you guys seeing me looking through his website?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so some of his pieces, they feature these aspects that usually I think don't really get paid very much attention. So to me, the way that I kind of feel is like these are the forgotten elements in our households. So it's like these little household still life, dream-like kind of pieces. I love the lamps. I love the lamps. I love the mirrors. He paints a lot of mirrors. And like, yeah, you can see a lot of the colors are really close together. They're all kind of related to each other. My favorite ones are the green ones.
They even become tighter as he's
yeah.
the newer ones. Yeah, let's see what he's done this year.
So anyways, I have a question for you. Because I looked up Tim Wilson he's from Queensland. Is that correct?
Is he Australian?
Because what I'm seeing are a lot of landscapes. Is there more than one Tim Wilson? And my second question, I guess that's not a question. Yeah, it is. Does he paint in oils or acrylics?
I'm pretty sure that some of his work is gouache.
Oh,
I think that's how I originally found him.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I think he does a little bit of everything. It's been a while. Like I just remembered that he kind of existed, which is, kind of ironic for his whole forgotten elements being the main theme of a lot of his work.
Like how much experimentation went into this work to lead to the style that they found. 2000 archive, I don't know, how old these are, but all of a sudden they really started to find their style and their different color schemes.
Well, there's some fabulous landscapes that are very atmospheric.
Yeah, you may have to share that link because I'm not sure if it's the same Tim Wilson.
That's what I'm wondering. This is
mirror.
Tim Wilson, Queensland, but there are many very fabulous atmospheric landscapes.
Interesting, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe there are several Tim Wilsons.
Well, this said Queenstown painter, Queenstown, wherever that is, Queenstown.
Maybe New Zealand then. Queenstown, that's,
I think that's New Zealand.
But the landscapes are knock your socks off.
But look at
I just love how unusual
color and
and the angles as well. Like there are these angles and like parts of the walls that you just wouldn't consider painting usually. Like I just really like. I think I said last week that I always like to have a discordant element in my paintings, as much as I do love like really pretty kind of things like that. You know, it's such a familiar and nostalgic kind of feeling, I guess, that I have when I look at something like that. But then those colors, there's something otherworldly about it all. And even the compositions, they're just these untraditional depictions of very traditional and familiar items that just kind of, I don't know, it's like this unusual
And
dreamlike,
this
like
is
that.
almost haunted.
Yeah.
He leads the eye really well through the painting.
Yeah.
The unusual,
And look at the wall.
unusual thing.
Look at the wallpaper here versus there, like the color, you know,
Yeah,
the light from
yeah.
above versus the shadow. And
He has an Instagram, which I think that's where I originally had found him, but it seems like his website isn't really, you know, I love that one as well.
yeah,
Like,
that looks like gouache to me. I don't know.
yeah, I think that it is because it seems like it's on paper. And I think like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I found him. I tried doing a little bit of what he does, and it's the same as James Gurney, who uses a lot of like that is what I want to be able to paint right there. That is perfection to me. I mean, all of it is. All of it
Yeah,
is.
I
And
love
so
that.
is all
That's
of what we
beautiful
do.
work. Yeah.
But yeah, he's just a master of those limited values, limited range of colors, but evocative.
Right. And I think we're going to cover two of these three aspects that he's using in today's class. So he's not using a color range or a huge temperature range, but he's using value and edges really well.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, this is a good lead into today's class. So thank you. Yeah, this is so fun. I mean, literally there's no way to see if we can get back. We're back at the Padlet page.
Yes.
Okay, great. This is what's so neat about the artist inspiration and the other things you guys share. Is just like, yeah, that's so, you know, fantastic. And who knows when we'll be snowed in at a haunted hotel and we still need to paint.
That's it. That's exactly, yeah. Or it's like visiting your grandmother's house in some kind of lucid dream, but you also went 200 years in the past. Something like that. I love it.
Except for there's electricity and lamps, but yes, close.
That's a
All
detail.
right, so here's another one Eloise shared with us, which I'm a huge John Singer Sargent fan. I've been very lucky to get to go to a number of his shows. In fact, when I was in Boston 2 weeks ago, you know, the Boston Art Museum has a huge amount of his work, 2 rooms full.
Wow.
And I didn't see anything like this in that collection. And what's so interesting is that first I thought maybe the values were off, or the it wasn't as bright as it's meant to be. But Sargent was just so good about finding limited value shifts, and values meaning lights and darks, and then slight color shifts. I mean, even these warm browns are really cool and dark. So you can just really tell that it's an overcast, maybe end of day. And so interesting, because that's something that wouldn't really attract me as a painter. But when you see somebody else do it, you're like, oh, I could, you know, I do see that. I do get to do things like that. So
I
a
want
lot
to
of fun.
just hop in and say, for both what you're just showing now, Sergeant, and what you were previously showing of the one she loves, Brian Sindler, are you familiar with his work? It so has this kind of palette and this kind of approach to painting. It's
Yeah,
BR.
I'm not positive if I know that name. So yeah, please share it.
It's BRIAN, Brian _ and then Sindler, SINDLER.
His stuff
Like
is
on
fabulous.
Instagram.
He's very
Yeah, I'm
good.
apparently following him on Instagram, and yes, I do know his pieces. Every single time they come up, I share some of his paintings
It just was
to
a
my
perfect
story.
It was a perfect combination of the color palette you were just talking about, and
And those
the one that
little lights He
So
does
how do
these
you
tiny
spell his
little
last name?
lights.
Because it's not popping up for me.
S,
There's a
S-
D in there, Sindler.
yeah, Sindler, Sindler.
His paintings look a little bit like yours, Michael.
Uh-oh.
A few of them do. I see one or two
Competition.
of them.
Oh, no. Yes, I know
There it
Brian.
is.
Yeah.
That's
No,
him.
yeah, we talk every
Actually,
once in a while.
I
Yeah,
think
he's an acrylic painter.
But
Yeah,
doesn't it
yeah.
have a similar palette and a feeling even to the ones that you were showing earlier as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we've shown together and talk every once in a while about each other's paintings on Instagram and stuff. Yeah, no, he's fantastic.
Well, you
And
tell
a
him we
lot of these
say
are
hi.
tiny, like 4" by 4". They're crazy.
All right, then you need to ask him how he does his underpaintings to see if he has a method that would equal to the to your wipeout.
Mm.
I
If
don't
there's
think he
anything.
does. Again, I think that watching him work, like even on something like this, I'm trying to
Mhm.
see. He normally posts little short videos.
There
but
are
I'm not
videos.
seeing-
Yeah, if you go to the top, go to the top of the page and click the little
Yeah,
the
because we could
middle
watch one because they're
icon.
so short. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, so let's look at well, here's the one I was just talking about. So you'll see he just does them really, and so with acrylics, the wipeout is not necessary because everything's so quick and fast.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
He's an acrylic painter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
does
and-
tons of these little 6 by 6 and look at that. I mean, it's just
Yeah. Wow.
ta-da.
And the
Yeah.
the trick with being able to paint like this is like in acrylics, that is. It's almost kind of like a dance. You need to practice it. You need to kind of have an idea and study what you're actually going to do. Do it first, and then you do the real version. So it's hard. It's hard. Acrylic painting, it's like, why did
has
I
a-
choose this?
He has a number of videos too where he paints right over the top of an old painting and just kind of changes the horizon line and does these I just tapped to Rachel Warner, who's a friend of mine who we talk on the phone. I've never met her in person, but we used to show together in a gallery here in Portland. And yeah, she does amazing tonalist work, just so loose and juicy. But yeah, just you can see that his color scheme and his harmony is just kind of off the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Have
didn't
a
mean to
look.
send you sideways, but I did want to, I just couldn't help but see the similarity.
No, yeah,
totally is
absolutely. I
fun.
mean, like this looks like something I would totally paint.
Have a look for it just while we're on the gram, Tim Wilson, he has an Instagram that is a lot more active than the website that he has, but he is not a very well-known painter, I don't think. And I think because of the complexity of how he plans his paintings, I imagine,
Beautiful,
he
right?
doesn't,
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
get from that. I don't know how he got from one step to the other. It was
That really looks
all of a
like,
sudden it's
that
He
looks
skipped
like
a step.
oil.
He actually,
You sure that's acrylic?
he actually made soft, loose, juicy paint on top of the dark hard.
on top of
edges,
the other ones. Okay.
and that's how he made it look
Yeah, and
soft.
that's what's so great about the acrylics is you can just add
Mhm.
paint right on top. We'll do one more of his. Hopefully he doesn't mind that I'm showing you guys all this as part of our class time. And let me know if this is not interesting, but
Oh, this is fascinating.
Very.
yeah,
Very
it's just, I
fascinating.
mean, look at the harmony.
Mhm.
And we're going to be looking at depth, values, and all of that. And he's just so good at it. And he's not afraid to, you'll see some of his videos where, yeah, he just changes things so completely.
Uh-huh.
I find that the hardest part of the acrylic is that while at the one hand you can just cover whatever, right? And you just can, but then once you've covered whatever, you can never go back.
Oh yeah. You have what you have what do you call it, that you put gesso?
Gesso. Yeah, you
I
gesso
gesso
over
over
it.
things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying basically that he thought this painting was dead. He lost the battle, but he's not going to lose the war. And that's
Wow.
what's neat about acrylics is you can just keep coming in and covering. And so anyways, let me go back to, since we're here, what was the video that we started with? I think it was this one.
Yeah.
And Rachel Warner is another, again, a friend of mine that, again, only on the phone. It's kind of a neat thing when you can just kind of call artists and start talking to them.
Yeah.
But she takes tonalism to the nth degree, like just so soft and so hazy and so dreamy. And yeah, just beautiful work.
Wow.
And yeah, we used to get to show together, but unfortunately the gallery owner passed away. And there's Brian Sindler, commenting on her work.
I just put a little link in the Zoom chat. So Tim Wilson, in this piece, it's oil. So oil on paper is what he's said. But there's like no edges. So on Zoom, I don't know, I posted it in like the Zoom. Gosh, my voice today, everybody. Goodness me.
Your ginger tea.
Yeah, got my peppermint tea, grouchy. But yeah, if you jump on the Zoom chat, I've just dropped a little link. And you can see like he's got not that many likes, like obviously, many more than I do. But he's just this expert at unusually recognizable objects and still lifes with like no edges.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so fun. I mean, hopefully I'm not boring anybody by just showing all this, but
Not at all.
it's so
No, it's like we're in a
interesting that, like,
digital art gallery right now. It's great.
yeah, but I mean, it can completely change your art just being inspired by another artist. I think there's nothing wrong from, what's the book, Steal Like an Artist, right? And it's just, we take inspiration from everywhere. And I think it's really important. Sometimes it can be a little distracting where I bounce around a little too much. But at the same time, just, seeing pieces, that inspire us and going down that little bit of a rabbit hole, just make sure you're not getting too caught up and spending too much time online looking artworks. That's really easy to do.
Yeah.
All right. And then I went ahead and put the links on the online links for the Wednesday, Thursday class. So let's really quickly, can everybody see this okay?
Yeah.
So I borrowed some of this, added notes of my own. This is something that's online. But as we are talking about design, atmosphere, color, and how do we take our black and white paintings or our designs and really push them forward. I think these are some really interesting, good notes. So the text I added, so contrast pulls forward, less contrast falls back into space, right? So as we are looking at the reference photos that I put together this morning, I would like you to begin to tell me, what are the main things that are working? Is it the values, the lights and the darks? Is it the edges, hard edges versus soft edges? Or is it the colors that, oops, misspelling there, but that are working in each one of the images? And how would you use that information to push your own painting forward, your own ideas, your own poetry within that piece, right? So when we are visiting the handout, which again, I apologize, I think it's 3 pages long, and we're going to spend 2 weeks on it. What of those are the preliminary elements? Because you don't need to use all of them all of the time, right? You don't need to worry about values, edges, and color all the time. Sometimes it's all about, like when we were just looking at what was his name, Brian's work, that it was more about
Schindler.
value than it was about color, right? He had a really beautiful color harmony, and it would go the same with Tim Wilson's work, right? So when we are looking at a painting going from back to front here, the background values aren't dark like this always, but what they're doing is the background values stay closer together, meaning that the lights and the darks and the distant elements are much closer together. Nothing destroys a sense of depth more than having a huge value shifts in the background, right? We also in the background have softer edges, right? If you have real crisp edges in the background, the painting also falls apart. Colors are also often more muted, a little cooler, a little grayer, whatever it is. A lot of times I'm working with backlit elements, so I'm dealing with kind of a reversal of that where there's a little more warmth, but my colors still generally are closer together in the background, whereas the midground, we have a slightly larger value jump, and then you can see down in the foreground, we've got all of the values, right? We've got the lightest lights and the darkest darks oftentimes, right? The edges are a little bit tighter. Colors are a little more, have a little better range. Getting down to the foreground, again, our values have a lot more, and we're going to see examples of this coming up. The edges are much tighter in the foreground generally. This is something I would love for a couple of you to think about as you're going forward, that when you're dealing with these value jumps, the tighter edge quality and brighter colors, you can also, instead of putting them right in the foreground, you can use these tools in your focal area. So sometimes your foreground is, more washed out or, less described because you want the viewer to just jump across it and to get to the focal area. So these tools are really powerful in that you can use them not only to describe depth, but you can also tell the viewer how you want them to travel through space and where to look and where to not look. So there's times where I will soften my foreground just because I want you to jump right across it. I want you to get to the mid area where my focal area is. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So values, low contrast pushes back, high contrast pulls forward. That again, that goes for your focal area. A lot of times we want our focal area to kind of come forward both visually and mentally. Edges become softer and less detailed as they go further away. Same thing goes for our focal area, right? Our brain will skim across, our eye will skim across soft edges really easily and just kind of move through the painting, right? Where we have contrast and hard edges and strong colors, our eye is attracted to and will slow down and begin to take in that information. Colors become closer to the surrounding environment as they get, colors become closer to the surrounding environment as they get further away, meaning that they are less extreme, the contrast between the colors. Any questions on these notes? These are brand new this morning, so hopefully you guys appreciate them. All right.
Yeah,
That's
nicely done.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's basically this handout. And I did borrow that information in that little printout from online, and I don't know who from, but I added to it and everything else. And I used to feel really guilty. I used to feel like I had to create my own lesson plans and my own handouts and my own stuff, but I realized that it's just truths, right? It's visual truths. So I'm not making any of this up. They've known it for 1,000 years, and we are just able to extrapolate on it and use it to benefit ourselves and our paintings and our poetry. So creating depth and atmosphere in painting, atmospheric perspective, value and edges. Understand how atmospheric perspective creates depth and mood in landscapes. Practice using value shifts, meaning lights and darks, to enhance storytelling and realism. Refine designs with intentional use of soft and hard edges, which for some of you guys is going to be revolutionary. Really is. Like, that's what kind of one of the elements that you guys may be missing. I'm looking at you a little bit, Graham, that when you start softening your edges as you're receding into space, your trees and everything really work so much better. And I think you've been working on that. Apply color temperature change across foreground, middle ground, and background zones. So there are times when I literally think of it almost as stage props. You know what I mean? So we've all been to plays where the background looks like it's falling back and each layer, and it's we can use that in our painting. And then oftentimes you just do a little bit of shift to unify or to connect those 3 layers, or 3 different zones of your painting. All right, atmospheric perspective defined. Objects recede as they become cooler, lighter, and less detailed. And again, I mess with this a lot because I love backlighting and I love backlight in atmosphere. So that kind of shifts that. But at the same time, even my warm backgrounds are cooler oftentimes. Warm colors fade first. The first color that drops away is yellow, then red, then blue, right? I've had multiple students over my 20 years of teaching want to fight me on that. But then I just say, you know, go outside and look at the mountains, right? The blue hills are called the blue hills. The blue mountains are called the blue mountains. And it's because of the fact that the wavelengths and how they travel through space, yellow is the first color to drop off, then red, and then blue. But then you do get these in-between color shifts, right? You get the purples, you get the oranges. So just be aware, and you don't have to overplay it. I've had issues in the past where I didn't describe that properly. And it's not like the foreground is yellow, the middle ground is red, and the background is blue. But you will notice that those colors exist less and less as they fall back into space. And again, we're going to see examples of that today. White objects darken and warm as they recede. Examples are backlit clouds. That one's a trickier one. And the truth is, I worry a little bit less about that in my paintings. I've found that if I overly darken whites, they become a little bit, so that's something I need to become more aware of and a more adept at. But zones of depth: foreground, strongest color, sharpest edges, highest contrast. Does that make sense to everybody? Middle ground reduces yellow, softer edges, moderate detail. Background, cooler hues, violets and blues, lighter values, and minimal detail. Sky transition zones. This is something we are not going to be dealing with in this class as much. We'll deal with more in the winter term with colors. But sky transition zone gradations from violet blue at the zenith to red violet near the horizon. And again, that's one where I get myself in trouble, where students are like, I just don't see it. I don't see, you know, red violet near the horizon. It's not strong oftentimes. It's very subtle. It's just these little shifts. Edges in design, hard edges, using the focal area to anchor attention. You can also use them more in the foreground to really bring it forward. Soft edges, use in receding forms to suggest atmosphere, and then blend transitions between zones to avoid abrupt shifts. All right, compositional tools for depth, and this is where I'm going to stop with today's handout. Layering and overlapping. This is something that I know a lot of beginning students are really scared to use. That's where our clouds bump into our trees, our clouds bump into our mountains, And we just really have to think about layering and overlapping. S curves, my favorite thing in the world, or winding paths to lead the eye, diagonals to energize space, right? Foreground interest to invite the viewer in, and gradual changes in size and scale. So again, this handout goes on, and we're going to revisit it this next week. If you are curious, though, for what you should be doing this week and ways to work on it, there are some homework and painting ideas that you can visit to see how you would like to begin to work on some of these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I am going to jump over to a little group of photos that I gathered. These are all, I think, are you guys seeing my photos?
Yeah.
Okay. So some of these are my paintings, very few, but mostly photos that I've taken that I just put together again yesterday and this morning. So we're going to start with a painting I did. So this isn't too dissimilar from Brian's paintings that we were looking at, where they're almost monochromatic, right? There's just I hope, a harmony to it, a softness to it. But what I'm using here is value shifts, a little bit of detail as it gets softer and softer, receding back into space. So this is actually a painting that I got to do as a trade for a good friend of mine. And yeah, they really wanted me to push that idea of being a tonalist.
It's lovely.
This is probably 10 years old.
Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but you guys see how it still has a sense of depth. Even as the darks go back, these trees retain quite a bit of dark. There's a bit of shadow under here, and then they get lighter, and then quite a bit lighter and closer together in color. And then we go into the, mostly is about this beautiful, weird, soft sky. And Graham, this is actually that same creek that you were painting from the Jackson Hole area the photo I shared.
Oh,
Just a different crop of it, and I think I flipped it.
it looks so familiar.
There you go.
That's what I like.
Wow.
Well, who said that?
Gail.
Me,
You like
I
this
like
one?
that too, that one.
I like to.
Gail, did you mean you like this one or this one?
That one.
Okay, so this was a photo I took just going over the hill. We've got all these, beautiful dirt roads and everything else, and I just love these fall colors. And so do you guys see how there's an interesting sense of depth with these blue mauve grays back here?
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing off even this top of a tree back here.
Yeah.
Right? And how they're playing off the warms, even though the foreground is shadowy, right? And it's kind of washed out some of the information, but there's still detail.
I think it's the edges that I like.
Yeah, and look at that. That is literally why I took this photo, was how the light is hugging these foreground trees. Yeah, it's just lovely. And almost everywhere I look, I'm like, that could be a painting.
Yeah, that right there can be a painting.
Right.
Oh, the whole
And
thing.
it's this rim light that's bringing in, what does it do? It's a sharper edge quality than we have anywhere else, right? So that comes forward. We also have a strong contrast between darks and lights, warms and cools. So we have these big contrasts in the foreground, even though it's within the shadow area.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we go back, even though these trees are just so glorious and glowy and fall colored, it's not these huge jumps. So if I turn this into a black and white, there's not these huge jumps in value, right? These values are very close to these values, again, meaning lights and darks. The temperature jump is pretty high. The chroma jump, meaning the color saturation, quite high. I mean, look at this gorgeous abstraction over here, right?
Yeah.
So just, this is a photo I've wanted to paint for a couple years and I never have. It's somehow scary to me.
It's
Maybe
got
it's
so much
color.
detail.
So much detail and so much color, but let's squint our eyes at it. Right? Really squint your eyes. Doesn't need to be a lot of detail to still tell the whole
I
story.
do.
Mhm.
You do. I know. I'm not
Yeah,
talking
I
to you.
do.
Carol. I'm talking to everybody else.
I know.
But let's do this. Let's do an adjustment and let's go to sharpness. And tell me, when does the painting actually fall apart? Almost never does.
It never does, no.
Mm.
Let's go to high contrast. And I think that falls apart. I mean, high sharpness,
Yeah.
where it's so much detail, I feel like that falls apart.
Yeah, it's too much.
Right.
I think I'd get rid of that tree right between the two big trees in the foreground.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
such a straight line, right? It just wants to
Mhm.
split it.
I think you could have a lot more fun with the background right in there.
Right. And imagine if we did get rid of that, then we'd have so much more movement, wouldn't we?
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot more flow.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that
great
one would be fun to
observation.
paint.
Because you see this little contrast here, this little dark.
Mhm.
See how that rolls around up into
Mhm.
here?
Mm.
Like that's this kind of stuff I'm looking for, is what's the movement? What's, again, going back to a couple classes ago, or sessions
I like
ago.
the way the
What's the
red of the
gesture?
trees also mimics that circle.
Really does, yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a fun one to paint.
Wow.
Right. So this is right up the road from one of my good friend's house, Amanda Houston, who's a fantastic painter, fantastic pastelist. But what I really loved is that the light was raking from the left to the right, right? It's rising on the left here. So that would be the east and the west. And I just loved how the light was catching these guiding lines, bringing us through. But what's most exciting is this contrast, right? These warms and these cools. And you can really see how the darks are dark and then they get, they retain their darkness, but watch this dark jump to this dark jump. So there's a whole farm between here and here, and it's a pretty good jump. And you see how the darks are just not nearly as dark.
Mhm.
And then they get lighter and lighter, right? And so all of a sudden we have this sense of depth. What we also have, if we care to use it, is this amazing amount of detail and information, which is really quite beautiful. I think it's just dried up old Queen Anne's lace.
Gorgeous.
Don't know what the garbage bag is there. Probably get rid of the sign. But the telephone poles are interesting, and it's got all these guiding lines and a lot of movement. Another painting that I've just never, or another photo that I've loved, and I keep like adding, each time I change my computer and never use. So here's an example of using values. So this is Italy, and a farm that we stayed on, olive farm. And it was so just rough and unrefined. I loved it so much. But I wanted to show you that values, right? So we don't have extreme darks in the foreground, but we have the shadows and these trees. So you notice the dark in these trees is going to get a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. So you guys seeing that in the shadows?
Mm.
How that helps it fall back. And then we get back to the hillside, which again, squinting our eyes is one of our greatest tools we have, or taking off your glasses, depending on your superpower. And just seeing how these structures hold through. So, I might not paint it as is completely, but if you look at it with your eyes squinted, you see how the shadows want to connect.
Mhm.
And how they want to go back into space.
Yeah. Mhm.
So there's the ultra colored version,
Mhm.
right? It's almost too much. But if we think about it in this way, then we can figure out the design, figure out how we might play with this painting. Still beautiful. I'm not sure the mauves up here quite work for me.
Yeah, you could bring those down in the foreground and those flowers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And these are olive trees. So we know that they have a paler bark, you know, if we caught a little light in them and stuff. This is right over the hill. Unfortunately, it's now all housing.
Looks like
And
a
then there's a
grand painting.
giant middle school painting there. But so this is the reverse, where the strongest colors are at the top, right? This painting is kind of about the vineyard, but really it's about this, right? Like that's where our eye goes immediately. Let me jump away and then come back to it and just, you know, kind of focus on where does my eye go, right? It's here.
Yeah.
But we're still playing with value shifts, right? The darkest darks are here. Get a little lighter in the darks. This tree is cut off, unfortunately, right at the top of the hill. And then they get lighter back. And then so when we go back here, we can see some information. It looks like the hint of a barn, the hint of some building. There's a wee bit temperature shift in here. But as we go back, like this looks like, oh, I was gonna say, this looks like it's gonna be the sky, right? Because there's
Sure.
almost very little value shift and color shift. And then we get up to the sky. Here's a couple
That looks familiar.
monochromatic photos that I took out at the coast.
That looks like one of your paintings.
What's that?
That looks like one of your paintings.
Yeah, this is my favorite kind of stuff. So this is Ecola Park outside of Cannon Beach, Oregon. And yeah, I've painted here so many times. It's crazy. There's elk walking around. It's an amazing place. That's Haystack Rock, the most photographed place in Oregon, as far as I can tell. But I just love looking at the value shifts, the darks as they recede back into space, the edge quality. It's definitely being helped by all the cloudy atmosphere that's going on, which again, I just feel so blessed to have in the Pacific Northwest. Now let's look at these hills as they recede back. So we've got these rocks. You can see they have a bit of an edge quality to them. But as we get further back, the edges become softer and softer and softer until you almost can't even tell if there's a hill back here.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of times, even in pretty good light or, you know, less atmosphere, where I use these things that I learn from observation in other paintings. Right. I've seen Gail use that quite a bit, you know, where we see Gail's reference and then go to how the painting ends, and you're softening your edges, right? You're obliterating edge quality to kind of lead the viewer through. Another example just from the other view. So we were standing up on the hilltop way back here previously, and I just love the texture and the information and the negative shapes in here. But they're not overbearing, right? Our eye still wants to move through it. It's got these guiding lines. And then the edges are, again, the values are receding, getting softer. This is another local farm here.
Oh, I
And
like
this one's, yeah, this one's, I mean, this looks so daunting to paint for me. I've
Yeah.
painted this scene a couple times, but I've never added all these elements. I've always kind of been picky and choosy. But this one, I took the photo because of, again, the Queen Anne's lace, I think it is. Yeah, Queen Anne's lace, at least over here. And all that texture is so interesting and so beautiful. I mean, that could be its own beautiful abstract painting. But then as we go back, the detail recedes, the temperatures recede, and the colors get closer together and cooler. Let me know if this is making sense, or if I'm being overly obvious and overly redundant here with all of this.
That's great.
But these are the things you're going to, once you start to realize what's happening, you'll begin to observe it better. So let's just look at this area. I'm going to zoom in here. All right. So we have This beautiful, again, Queen Anne's lace. We've got these reds and yellows and warm colors that really want to come forward. Then we get into the mid value areas. And what are you guys seeing? You're still seeing greens, and which means yellows, right? You need yellow to make green. And then you begin to see that those colors get a little grayer, a little more mauve, even within the greens, right? These greens, if I zoom in, feel quite vibrant. But when I compare that to this or this, do you guys see how it's falling back into space?
The the lower foreground, it looked like a little war between color and value, because the darkest value is that green trees.
Right. So it's
But
not like, yeah, so you don't always have all of them to play with. You know, if I was to paint this, I might put some darks up here, but I don't know if I would need to, because you don't need to use all three tools all the time. Sometimes just a temperature is enough to tell us.
I forget that.
And detail and texture is enough to tell us, an edge quality. So we have so many tools. Also overlapping, right? Even if none of these were as dark as this is, we know that they're closer because, for one, they're gigantic. For two, they're overlapping. For three, so much more texture and detail. I mean, we can literally see the information within that. Whereas when we look back to these trees, you're seeing less and less and less of the leaf structure till we get back here to this back foreground hill where there's almost nothing. It's just almost a big flat shape, like with a very subtle gradation or shift. This is a painting I did in one of the classes previously.
Yes.
Again, just sharp edges, a little bit of detail versus soft edges. Even though we're not getting a temperature shift, like some of our warmer colors are back here. But that's just because that's kind of become part of my thing, what I'm attracted to. But it still reads, even though I'm not dealing with color and temperature shifts as much. But what I am dealing with is detail, edge quality, and value shifts.
That's pretty.
Yeah, so this is 5 minutes from my house. Yeah.
I
Looks like a
need to live
painting.
where you live.
Yeah, only if there wasn't a whole bunch of buildings here, a bank over here, and a Costco right behind me when I'm there. But it's, you know, but you look for these things. And what I love about atmosphere, fog, and everything else is that it helps me to simplify and to figure out things, right? I've painted here with multiple friends. This is, again, such an easy place for me to visit. But literally there's a road, a bridge, a bunch of buildings. Our old bank is right here. I'm standing on a bridge. Costco's, again, not far behind me. Nike's less than a mile away, like the headquarters. But you can still find these things. And if you don't find them, you can still create them by choosing what you're focusing on, right? And yeah, I love the delicacy here.
Right there.
Like, yeah, I almost think like this might be the painting I would want to do.
Yeah, that'd be
I
good.
love the fact that the sun is being reflected, and it's so amazing as viewers that we'll just know that the sun is up here, right? Even though we're not showing it.
Is that morning?
Yeah, early morning fog. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you can tell it's just a lousy photo I took with my iPhone and probably through my sunglasses.
That's all you need.
All right. So there's my daughter and her good friend out at the beach. And I just love the story this photo told. Her friend unfortunately carried her boots with her, but it would have been great to have both of their boots here as they walked back to get in the water. But I love the crisp edge, right? So when we look in here, I mean, even this almost tells a story, right? And it's the crisp edge. Look at even the light and the little bit of a creek that's going up the beach. And then as we recede back into space, right? Who questioned for a second that that was two figures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're, look at that, there's nothing. And it tells a better story. It tells us they took off, you know, again, I would probably, if I was to paint this, I'd probably add both pairs of boots, maybe even have one laying over, you know, using it as a directional line. But I love this photo. Again, it's one I've never painted, but I just love when I capture these little moments that tell some sort of a story. And what is it that's telling the story? It's, here's the lead in, here's the idea. They took their boots off and now they're going to go walk in the water at sunset, right?
It's pretty.
Wow.
That looks like a Graham painting too.
Yeah, I've painted at this spot quite a few times. There's a big vineyard that I've painted on top. This is zoomed in a long ways. But what I wanted to show you with this one is the visual lines. So perspective lines, right? Again, I live kind of in a rural, well, on the edge of rural. So we get a lot of farm fields and hay fields and vineyards, and these are blueberries.
Really?
So gorgeous. Yeah, blueberry bushes are the most beautiful. Oh man, they're so brilliant. But you can see that I have less depth, right? I mean, besides until you get way back here, like if I was to paint this, I'd probably add a lot more blue, gray, mauve colors into this to push these hills further back. But what I do have are these lines, right? And they continue on throughout the painting. So we can use multiple tools, same spot, just looking slightly to the left. I love this is again early morning sunrise, and this pond always seems to have steam rising off it. I don't know if that's just cow urine or what. But I just love, I mean, for me, this almost looks again like an abstraction. It's just a beautiful, interesting. Again, this one's even closer than the other pond. This one is just right around the corner from my house. And it's a weird beaver dam area that's always changing. But I just love this detail. It's so eerie, right?
Like one of your paintings too.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when Snow White goes into the woods for the first time, and it's so scary and everything's a little daunting. But then you get up to here and there's just beautiful soft edges and mist and fog. And I always find it interesting too that you could have all this fog and then in the reflection, they'll be a little cooler and a little crisper. This is one that I pushed the chroma up. I've painted this scene multiple times, different sizes. This is the Oregon Gorge, the Columbia River Gorge. That's Vista Point. This is the sunset hitting these rocks and these trees. And why I chose this one is probably obvious, but look at the gradation in values, even though they're all blue as they recede into space, right?
Yeah.
It's just lovely. It just tells you that this is a grand vista. I mean, that's called Vista Point, and it's very, very famous and a beautiful spot to watch sunset or sunrise. And I paint there a lot as well.
Beautiful sky too.
Yeah, nice and subtle and soft. And
Yeah.
yeah, I actually have I'll show you when we're done here, but I have the painting behind me that I did. This was a weird 6 foot by 6 foot. So it's 20 inches by 60 inches. So whatever that is, each panel. And this was done for a meditation area, meditation place here in Portland. And they wanted it super subtle. She loved birch trees. I think she's Russian, so it's kind of based on these Russian birch. And this is an old painting. This is probably 15 years old. But it was a great exploration on just how values, if you play them right, really fall back into space. Where I don't even know if you initially notice that these are the tops of trees back here with the light coming through. Wow, when is this taken? 2008. This is my view from my bedroom growing up.
Do you have any close-ups of those birch trees? Because
No,
it's
but I
such a
can,
big painting. I'd be just curious
yeah, I can zoom in, but
what it looks like close up, because it's like a close to 2 feet by 5 feet.
the whole thing together is probably 6 foot by 6 foot.
Oh yeah, no, I meant each panel is like 2 feet.
Oh
around
yeah,
2 feet.
something like that. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what
I
size
just wondered how textured, because you did it in oil, or you did it in
yeah,
acrylic?
that was oils. It's mildly textured. It was kind of a faster painting. Yeah. The reason I shared this, even though it's a very lousy photo, again, I think it's from like 2008.
Yeah.
Very beginning of digital photography here. What I loved and just blew my mind when I saw this scene was the warmth versus the cool, right? And how that just falls back. There's a horse back here. That was that horse's name was Bunny, little pony. Yeah, and so that's what this was about, was just the light breaking through the fog and the mist. My parents' house is a little bit in a canyon, but just this warm light breaking through, hitting these trees, warming them up. And as everything got really cool, like that was kind of a moment in my realization of, you know, how light and temperature shifts.
There's
Here
reflected light, the warm reflected light coming from your house.
I wonder, yeah.
It has to be, because there's no light coming from that direction. The sun's over the other direction.
I mean, I think it's also bouncing off the bright yellow leaves,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. So kind of an opposite, right? It's the warms to the
Mhm.
cools, Oregon coast again.
Wow.
So this one, if I were to paint it, I would even probably lighten these even more, probably dissipate these further. These figures, what I really like is the just detail in the foreground that just kind of tells this interesting story of rocks, this stream. It's again a painting or a photo I've never painted, but I've always enjoyed. Yeah, so what I'm looking at here is how does this tell me about depth and perspective? So when you're looking at your own photos, say, okay, how do I know that there's depth? There's overlapping of rocks, there's recession of size of rocks, right? They're big as they get smaller. And these things seem so obvious, like our brain just knows this, but it's really good to break it down so that when we're painting it, right, we know it's like a bunch of just seals. You get these little figures that just look like nothing again, but we know that they're figures back there, maybe a dog. Softer edges. So
Wow.
here's something in the ultimate foreground. So this is a Norwegian fjord horse baby.
Oh, that's-
So cute, so cute,
oh,
right? So this is my sister's property in Montana, and her baby horse who just followed me around one morning. And what I wanted to say here is, and this is again going to be very obvious, but look at how do we tell that it's a baby? Look at this soft fuzz, its overly large eyes, the edges, and then they get softer and softer. Again, I would probably not make this as dark as it is. There's her mom, same weather condition. And it's like, okay, so so this one barely has a foreground, just kind of a middle ground and a distant background, right?
Wow.
This is how I get rewarded when I wake up early and go for drives to look for scenes. And a lot of times, like I don't love the shapes of these trees. I would try to figure out how to break these up and stuff. But again, the contrast from the foreground, little bits of texture in here, even though it's very dark. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, wow, how did I jump
Wow.
to that?
Will you share some of these?
I've shared lots of them on our Padlet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but just again, a lot of times I'm taking photos just for weather elements, just for ideas, just for design. But I mean, that could be a painting.
Yeah, that'd be a really nice painting.
You guys are welcome to them. I love seeing how clever you guys are and how you want to change these up. All right. So again, this is right around the corner. This is the same picture that I was telling you looked kind of haunted of Snow White, but I was standing over here on the left side looking up this way. This is another view. And what I really, really like here is that I've got these worms coming forward in the shrubbery and the bushes and in the stuff. And then you get a hint of it back here, but everything else in the middle is really quite cool. Even when you get to these reds, right? These auburn colors.
Mhm.
If I show that versus, let's go to this side. You see how much warmer this is
Mm-hmm.
and that is. So this is one where I'm going to show you 3 different ideas on this. So there's through my sunglasses, which I also like, but it loses a lot of the temperature
Yeah.
shift, right?
It looks like one of your paintings, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to put down my sunglasses, I think, for a little while. And then just different edits, right? Where I
That's a
took off
pretty
the
painting right
cuffs,
there.
Yeah.
right? And what a neat design.
Yeah.
We don't have to tell the whole story. In fact, sometimes telling less of the story can be more interesting.
That reflection is nice.
Yeah. This is our cabin.
Hmm.
I love the warm reflected light down here. And again, I've pushed the chroma, I've pushed the color saturation up. You can obviously tell that. But what I really liked is how it pushed the warm reflected light down in the foreground and in the canoe. And then it made the cools so cool back here, so blue, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if I'd paint it that high saturation because it might look a little cartoony, but at the same time, I sure know a lot of artists who paint with high saturation and get
Right.
away with it.
That
Most
looks like one of your
people,
paintings, too.
most people envy other people for their big fancy houses. We artists envy people who live by misty, swampy
Yeah.
ponds.
Again, this is 10 minutes the opposite direction. And this place, you would drive past it 100 times during the day. It's not that like in the middle of the day. It's just a big, I don't know, dam kind of area that's before you go into a nature park. So a lot of people just don't notice this. But in the morning fog, it is so beautiful. And what I love again is just the amount of texture, the amount of detail, and as it falls back into space. Again, I would need to design this. I don't love all the shapes of the trees and everything else, but I love the shifts in temperature. And I love this soft edge back here.
Mhm.
That's pretty.
Wow.
Now we're a little further away. Now we're 35 minutes from my house, maybe 30. This is Kingsgrade Road. This is a property that I always wanted to buy, but a vineyard bought it. So this is all vineyard now, and they're super nice. So I can't be too mad, and I get to go visit whenever I want and paint. But I love again just the gradation, the warm temperatures up front. So why I chose this one is because if we were to zoom back here and just focus on this area, I think that we would all agree, wow, those are some beautiful, fairly warm colors, right?
Mhm.
Until we come forward and really see how warm and hot they can get. So these actually become cool, but they're still, affected by this warm, this is sunset over here. This is looking west. Yeah, love this area.
That's so beautiful.
So this is Glacier National Park, right on the edge of Canada. And again, I just chose this one because of abstracting the landscape, trying to tell what's the least amount to tell the most amount, but also just these value shifts when we look into the shadows. So a lot of times when I'm having a hard time figuring out how do I create a sense of depth, what I do is I look to the shadows. See how dark this is? And then we got shadows back here, also quite dark, but not nearly as dark as over here. And then we get into the shadows of the mountain. You see how much cooler and lighter they are?
Yeah.
So we're going to begin to look for things like that. This is a scene that I chose because it's so very complicated. I've painted it a couple times, but it's so complicated. There's Yeah, I was sharing these photos with Amy Erickson, a friend of mine. It's a really good painter, and she's like, I would never do that. I would never paint that. It's so much. But you know, when I do paint it, I am literally like, which trees can I clear cut without ruining the scene? But again, it's the same thing. It's the warm foreground, the reflected light, the amount of detail and texture. And even though it's a condensed scene, this is probably not, 20, 30 yards back. There's a big difference between the amount of information between there and here. Is that making sense, Gail?
Yep. Absolutely.
Gail's
So
gonna
here it
paint that.
Here, yeah, Gail's gonna paint that with subtraction. I would love to see that and all that detail. Actually, you could probably do it. You're getting so good with your subtractive paintings.
Didn't we?
But yeah, here's just turning it into black and white. So a lot of
Really
times,
soft.
yeah, when I
Make all
see
that mess
things like
really
this,
soft.
yeah, exactly. And then you can, let's just go ahead and do a quick edit, and I'm just going to take away our sharpness. So again, it looks like so much, right? So you can squint your eyes at it, or you can take it into here, and all of a sudden it just becomes much simpler. It's just a bunch of big shapes.
A lot of suggestion.
Yeah, suggestion is a great way to say it. Yeah. Here's me painting in Laos, I think. And again, this is the Mekong River. Mekong, is that the name of it? And I just was so excited by for one, there's this fisherman down here throwing nets, which was fun to watch. But just the amount of depth as things receded into space, you can see, as always, I warmed it up. Need to stop doing that so much, but
Then it wouldn't be yours.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, just using vanishing line to lead back into space, and then also all the other things with strong dark, strong value contrast, going back into the cool blues. Same creek as before. So much, like that is so busy. Looks like it'd be the worst puzzle ever if you could just set
Yeah.
up that. Same spot as before.
Love that.
Wow.
And
That's
here we
really-
have full lots and lots of color, right?
That's a Regini
is-
painting.
There you go. I think Regini maybe has painted this. I don't know.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, it's on the
beautiful.
page if you ever want to. But again, I think it could be, not nearly as interesting if it was just this big, beautiful sky and these grasses. If you didn't have this variety of values here to give us that sense of space and depth.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a person. Nope, that's just a sign or something. There's some people, some birds.
Wow.
Okay, I think this might be one of the last ones. I chose this one because I was actually painting with Brenda Boylan, and I was trying to figure out, I was breathing on the camera lens to soften the foreground because I wanted it to be about this texture area. So trying to figure out how in my own photos can I obliterate the foreground. And you can do that where you can literally breathe onto your camera lens, or you can put a bit of Vaseline on an edge. You can do lots of different things with your cameras. Probably just a dirty fingertip would do it. But this one, how do I make it about the middle ground?
That right there.
There, yeah.
Yeah. This is a friend's photo that they sent me that I got to paint at some point because I just think it's so amazing.
Wow.
Columbia River Gorge again.
From the
But this is-
opposite side.
yeah, this is the Washington side. Yeah.
Man, that's
But this is not about like temperature shifts as much as normal, because you have these really bright bands of light where the foreground is in shadow, but then it jumps right back into the cool grays.
what a shot.
No kidding. Yeah. This one deserves to be a big painting, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. This is those red blueberry bushes are on the other side of the hill. This is looking off the other side. This is my friend's back of her property, and the sun had set and I was having a hard time photographing because there was so low light. But this is, again, you can still use this information to make a painting, even though I wouldn't copy this, like the colors are not very pretty, but I still got these lines of
You could really
gradation.
push that with purple and yellow.
Oh yeah, no, this would be a fantastic one for the colors you were using a couple terms ago. But just again, looking at the shadow, the darks as they recede back into space. Again, recession of line. This is a vineyard near my grandma's house. This is the oldest, I think, vineyard in Oregon. But look at these hills back here
Yeah.
as it comes towards us, right? Sorry, I didn't realize I had so many. I should probably go out and see how many we have left here. Oh, this is the last one. Okay, good timing. So again, just value contrast, right? This would work almost as well just as a black and white.
That
Right.
looks like one of your paintings too.
It
Yeah.
is one of my paintings. I've painted this scene a couple times.
Yeah, I remember because that one weird tree.
Yeah, that tree always bothers me. And it's this tree that only grows on the left side bothers me. But there's something really nice about the movement and yeah. Kind of like it cool. Some people like it cool. Okay, so value contrast, edge quality, temperature, texture, detail. We've got so many tools that we get to use. And again, it doesn't always have to be about telling from the front to the back. It can be about, I want the focal point here or here, right? I might bring out some of those elements. But those are just wonderful, wonderful tools as we're moving forward in our paintings. So let's take a little break, look at some of your guys' work on our Padlet page. And then I'm going to do a very basic lesson on using 3 to 4 values in our landscape, just to break it down. And then next week, we're going to explore that with further, taking it further to the next level. Tell me if there's any of these you'd really like to see me paint for next week. But I'm going to show you something that I've really helped me when I was starting off as a landscape painter. And again, some of you have seen this lesson before or something similar. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Any
Michael,
questions before we do?
yeah. Are we going to actually have a class on next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving?
We are scheduled to have a class.
Okay.
Yeah, and okay. Yeah, we could possibly figure that out, but is anybody else really gonna miss?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Gail.
Okay, that's fine. I was just
All right.
wondering.
Just send us all some mashed potatoes and turkey and we'll be good. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop share and stop recording, and let's take a 10-minute break, and we will check out our Padlet to see some of the other beautiful things you guys have been working on and sharing.